here's my question. See if you can see what my big drive. This, by the way, this is Mark. This is the everybody's against baseball right now. He's wearing a baseball cap, but it's like a military one. So I don't know if that was a choice. Like, give me a baseball cap, Mr. Producer. Need a baseball cap, and but one that's not baseball. It's military. Got a flag on it, so I can steal valor from military people and pretend I give a shit. This is short. But this is, I mean, they are so pissed about Major League Baseball.
Anything is restrictive that they disagree with.
Hold on, I'll run
for the Democrats, anything is restrictive that they disagree with. Anything is Jim Crow that they disagree with. Anything.
Well, no. I mean, I disagree with the idea that, the Snyder Cut really made a difference, but I don't think it's.
Anything is racist that they disagree with. Anything is sexist that they disagree with.
No, I think it's the other way around, Mark. When you're being racist and sexist, you get disagreed with a lot. And since you're like that a lot, you feel like everything I say, somebody thinks is racist. Mm-hmm. It's almost like, Mr. Producer, where there's smoke is fire.
And they can go to hell.
All right, well, I guess that settles it. Here's my question, Mark. And far be it from me to question the Blaze's, rock solid production that they have over there. I mean, have you seen Glenn Beck's set? It looks like the inside of a spaceship. It's fantastic. Here's what this is my big question, Mark, is why the fuck won't they turn on the lights for your show anymore? Seriously. Did they just refuse? The set is not, you're not lit. None of this is lit. Did they go out and you're like, I'm going to shoot it anyways, I don't care. We'll do it live-ish. Why is it not lit? This is not a trick of exposure. Literally, this is what the set looks like that's like emergency lighting. My set is better lit. I know, Kelly. Am I right? They don't want to see his face either. And he's got a hat on, which would block even light if they... All right.
And all the corporations that back him can go to hell?
All of them. Every single one of them. I mean, Mark flies private anyways.
And all the sports players and sports leagues and sportscasters that back...
And women and children and men and churches, and they can all go to hell.
They can all go to hell?
Okay. But can they go to hell?
We shouldn't destroy our system because people are ignorant.
Well, that's what you're doing.
Or because people are pursuing a radical left agenda, or they ultimately want to undermine our voting system to ensure that the Democrat Party is elected for another century without challenge. We've seen what's happened in countries like that.
Well, obviously you could challenge them, but you're just going to lose.
But the Democrat Party sees here as the opportunity with this election law to destroy the Republican Party, to prevent...
How would it destroy the Republican Party?
Any serious competition for the presidency, vice presidency, Senate, or House of Representatives. It's that simple.
But, so governors and state legislatures and all that kind of stuff, they would be solidly in Republican hands, is what you're saying? They could only control the federal elections. So by only dealing with the federal elections, then the Republicans there'd be a huge opening, it would seem, for Democrats to lose state houses. Effectively, the Republicans become a regional party and take over, large swaths of the country and have massive control points over it and use their leverage, having the governor's mansions of several states against the... Oh, right. That's actually well thought out.
And you can see these various elements in the culture that support the Democrat Party.
Totally.
Backing them. Stacey Abrams, LeBron James,
Black.
Kerry. The media, the corrupt and crooked media in this
Jews.
country, they know what they're doing, and we know what they're doing.
They're using black people. They're weaponizing black people, using Jewish organizations to stop white people from, I don't know.
Now, the reason why Joe Biden is in the gutter is because he's never left the gutter.
This is baseball, not bowling. The reason Joe Biden is in the gutter. He literally, his programs are polling well with Republicans.
And so when he says this is Jim Crow, he knows it's not Jim Crow, but he doesn't care. The ends justify the means. It's worse than Jim Crow. It's Jim Eagle. Somebody tried to coin that. Everybody said, well, that's stupid. You've even had the Washington Post try to correct Joe Biden on a few occasions. He said that polls close at 5 p.m. Can you imagine that? People are just getting home and working. Well, the polls in Georgia are open from 7 in the morning to 7 at night.
But the bill gives them the ability to make it earlier, and it's the time, not the actual hours. The bill allows counties to make it 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. if they want to. Hence the issue.
That has not changed. The polls...
Yes, it has. The majority of places will keep it the normal time, but if people want to stop working people from voting, they just cinch it up.
In Georgia, we're not open on Sundays, so now they're opening it on Sundays and Saturdays if people want to vote on the weekend. That is a change. That's an expansion. 17 days, as I said, for early voting. That is an expansion. So there's nothing here that is regressive or restrictive in any respect. Now,
look, you can have all these opportunities to vote early. We're still going to send you broken machines.
I'm telling you about this because I've actually read this proposed and now statute. I read part of it on the air and radio as well. Almost everybody else commenting on it hasn't read a damn thing.
I read it. Go for it.
The head of the baseball league, the commissioner, he hadn't read it. The CEO of Delta, he hadn't read it. The CEO of Coca-Cola, who I think is a Brit, by the way, he hasn't read it. None of these people have read it.
Oh, is that what the Brit thing is? So that's London calling from there. That's the Coca-Cola thing. That's why Trump gives a shit. That's why he brought up London. They don't know how things work here. Coca-Cola doesn't. He's drinking Diet Coke, so that's why he gives a crap.
Some of them actually supported it before, like Delta, said, this is fine. But then the left, the Marxists jump in and they attack.
Yeah, the Marxists. In Marxism, you don't vote.
And the Democrats jump.
Marxism is antithetical to democracy.
And they attack, and the president.
You realize that, right? There's no process wherein voting happens.
The president jumps in and urges a boycott. Well, we're going to get into that in a minute.
Yeah, urging boycotts is terrible. And if they try, we're going to urge a boycott.
MSNBC, Stephanie Rule, who is a disgrace.
Stephanie Rule is fucking awesome. I think she's on my girlfriend and on both our hall pass list. She's super smart. And the irony is that she's probably the most baseline sensible about Wall Street stuff, because she's surrounded by it. She's literally a part of the economics world in New York. She's not some dyed-in-the-wool, anti-capitalist activist.
Talking to New York Times reporter Sorkin. Now, it's always interesting to me.
And whatever's interesting to you, Mark, is interesting to us. Except for that fucking Donald Trump cookie jar.
When you have one so-called journalist interviewing another so-called journalist, what is the point of that?
Well, one isn't a journalist. They're a television host. And the journalists do the written part where they break down stories. They chase down individual stories. They've got a specific beat. Whereas the television personality, in the case of Stephanie Rule, covers an entire beat. And when they want to go into the deep reads on a particular story, they often will bring on journalists who've been covering it exclusively or specifically for a time. So let's say I do a show about economics, and it's about the there's all kinds of stuff within that. The gold standard and the Fed and taxes and the housing market and all that. And then we find out the credit default swaps are a thing. We're going to bring in somebody who's been covering the credit default swap story for a while and interview them and talk to them because they're another source. So you don't have to redo their interviews. You can bring them in. I'm sorry. That was my mistake. I thought that was a real question. You're just being a dipshit.
There is no point of that.
No, there's exactly the point I just made. Folks, that's what television news is. Television news is basically a podcast for written journalism.
So what's the point of my playing it? To humiliate these people.
That'll do it, yeah. Yes, anyone would be humiliated just to have Mark Levin talking about them.
Go.
Critics
Go.
are saying CEOs should not be weighing in on Georgia voting laws or morality, but that's not what this is about. What CEOs are experts in is risk management. Haven't they decided basically that staying silent is going to hurt their bottom line a whole lot more?
Let me just stop you there.
She's literally making a normal pro-business argument, and she's also saying that these companies aren't woke. That's not why they're doing this.
It's more about risk management with these CEOs. These boardrooms are filled with leftists.
That's what it is. Big lefty organizations. I mean, it's all, I don't know if you've seen it. They used to be shockingly white and male, and now they aren't anymore. And clearly, all they're doing is absorbing Marxists, because that's how you keep a giant corporation afloat.
These boardrooms and media are filled with leftists. All over the country, they're filled with leftists.
Yeah, he can smell them. Mark knows him. The lighting guy was a leftist, so he told him to leave. He said, exit stage left, buddy. That's why the lights aren't on.
Silicon Valley and so forth. And maybe this so-called reporter would do better in asking the question rather than making a statement and putting a question mark behind it. Go.
Go.
This is a business decision, and what's so remarkable about what's happened over this past week is, you know, Republicans have always loved big business and free markets until the big businesses turn against them on issues, in this case, social issues.
Okay, let's stop. Voting is not a social issue.
Okay, it's not a social issue. He's channeling his inner Dennis Miller.
It's a constitutional issue. It's not a social.
It's a constitutional issue. It's a social issue if you're making it super easy for affluent white people to vote and really fucking hard for working class whites and black people to vote. That would make it a social issue. If people are standing in line for 7 hours in certain neighborhoods, but in other neighborhoods they're out in 20 minutes, that's a social aspect of that issue.
Social issue. It's not even a cultural issue. That's not.
No. You know, American culture isn't based on the idea of democracy.
Number one. Number two, these are corporatists. We've been talking about this now for years on radio.
Corporatist communists. Yeah.
Here, even here.
Yeah, even there. But I was talking about it with the lighting guy, and he just like got all mad and walked off in a huff. All I heard was a click, and then we had to shoot.
Who do not support free market capitalism or competition.
Yeah, that's the problem with giant American corporations.
They support government smothering competition. They support special privileges from government. Look at big tech. They wouldn't survive but for the fact that in
Section 230.
1994 or so, they got protections against lawsuits. Look at big media. Same thing with the New York Times versus Sullivan
If they didn't, you wouldn't be on Rumble right now, dickhead.
decision, a disaster.
I mean, you wouldn't be anywhere.
In the 1960s, again, protecting them from the market system. So you and I support.
From the market? Are you just upset because you only got 538 Rumbles? Boo-hoo. Mark Levin, though, I mean, come on. 500,000. This is legit. This is how you can tell somebody's numbers are real and aren't purchased. Subscribers, 564,000. Views, 3,234. Yeah, it seems legit.
Support businesses that want to participate fair and square in a free market.
How come I have like 17,000 subscribers on YouTube? A paltry sum compared to others, but all legit people, which I'm very proud of. And my viewer numbers are higher on a lot of my videos than his. How's that work?
Competitive market. What we reject are big businesses that don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Big businesses that don't believe in that. And we've seen these kind of businesses in fascistic regimes, even Marxist regimes, where they coddle up to the government. And so,
yeah, remember when Hitler took over that lemonade company? It was brutal.
So here we have two liberal Democrats dressed up as journalists mocking Republicans.
For all this and much more.
Yeah, tell us. Don't open out around.